Hey everybody, Cole and Aaron here again. Hope you enjoyed last week's episode where we got a chance to go outside of the Pro Exteriors family and learn from a real estate professional that is based in the Central Maryland area. Today we get to meet another realtor as well. Aaron, I know you were the one that had the contact for our guest today.
Yep.
Could you share a little bit about how you guys met?
Yeah, so Nitan is a realtor local here to Milton, where our office is located. He's kind of hyper focused on just the Milton area, kind of the surrounding area. But I met Nitan as part of the Milton Chamber of Commerce. Once you meet Nitan, he's a very hard individual to forget. Super, super friendly. Very kind of in your face personality. Where once you meet him, it's you just don't forget him. So, right away, I was kind of naturally just attracted to be in kind of his space, simply because his aura is crazy. Obviously, a very busy person, very charismatic, very, very intelligent, great personality. So as part of the Milton Chamber of Commerce, I ended up joining the leadership team, which he happened to be on the executive board. And then he's also a member of I don't even know how many other local committees in town, at least 3 that I'm aware of. He also happens to have younger children like myself, happens to kind of go in the same circles. His daughter and my son happen to go to the same piano teacher. So it just found myself, once I met Nitan that first time, we kind of figured out that we're in a lot of the same circles. But now I've known Nitan for probably 9 months to a year now.
Okay.
And he's just happened to become like a really, really good resource. So, I trust his opinion. Obviously, he's professional, just a super intelligent person.
Yeah, so I met him doing this episode, and like you said, it was immediately apparent that he has a lot of heart and passion in general, but specifically for our area.
Yeah.
Too. So,
yep, very much so.
Audience, I think you will enjoy this conversation. I think you will learn a lot. Whether you are preparing to sell or buy a house or not, this is information that you can kind of stick in your back pocket. So without further ado, enjoy today's episode. This is the You Ask, the Pros Answer podcast. Do you have questions about an upcoming exterior contracting project? We've got answers. Welcome to the You Ask, the Pros Answer podcast. Nitan, welcome.
Hey, morning, Cole. How are you?
I am doing pretty well. We are recording this on October 31st, Halloween Day. I turned on the radio. I'm not sure how many of our guests actually know what a radio is, but it's that box that some of us have that you can actually change stations. You can't choose the music that it plays. Anyway, I expected to hear one style of music because it's been set to that dial for a while. Yeah. And I was greeted with Christmas music. And I thought,
yeah,
it's October 31st.
Yeah, it's just too much. We have we generally in our house, it's a no Christmas rule until after Thanksgiving. We get through Thanksgiving and the next day can all be Christmas, but it's earlier and earlier anyway.
My wife and kids are already asking if we can put up our tree. We're in a new house, and so we're still decorating, and so a tree would be nice, but I'm trying to push it off as long as I can. Anyhow.
Yeah.
Nitan, since you are not on the show every week, I was wondering if you could share just a little bit about yourself before we jump into things.
Sure. Yeah. Nitan Soni. I'm a local real estate professional here. I have a real estate business in Lewes. I run a team of agents out of that Lewes office. We service mostly Delaware Beach region, whether it's Georgetown, Milton, Rehoboth, Lewes, Dewey. We'll go out a little bit further west. There's certainly a pocket that we serve that's a little bit more of our expertise than, let's say, going out a little bit further towards Maryland or even further north. But our primary goal is, and we kind of phrase it like this: we try to gather, interpret, and share information so that homeowners can make sensible decisions about what they might want to do with their home, whether it's buying, selling, or whether it's the topic of today's conversation is what should I improve this or should I improve that, and what makes sense. So that's where we fit in, and we've been doing it now for 10 years, and so still enjoying it.
Cool. Yeah. So the title of the show is You Ask, the Pros Answer. Here I am scheduling guests, and I could have the opportunity to actually be the pro today since Aaron's not with us, and yet I'm still the guy that that plays the role of the bumbling goofball who doesn't know much. So thank you for being the professional in this equation.
All good.
Before we jump into the question that we are going to tackle today, we try to start each week sharing just a little bit about the thesis of the show, why a contractor would start a podcast. For anybody that's finding the show for the first time, the concept is pretty simple. We know that the home is usually the largest financial investment that anybody will have. And therefore, anything that you do in or around or to the home is inherently going to be stressful or could be stressful because there's a lot of money at stake, there's time, there's energy, there's memories attached. And so we also know that there are a myriad questions that pop up when you are trying to do a renovation or you're trying to sell your house. And so we just want to be the resource that people come to when they have a question about how much should my new roof cost? Should I replace that kitchen island? You know, so today is no different. As you alluded to, here's the question that is going to inform the rest of our time together. Which home improvement projects make the most sense? And then parenthetically, when I am planning to sell my home. So, Nitan, you and I just met a few minutes ago, so you don't really know this. I work for Pro Exteriors. I work as part of the team, but my family and I moved from Sussex County, Delaware to Kenton County, Kentucky earlier in the year. When people ask, where do you live? I always say Cincinnati. It is the strangest world out here. So
Yeah.
we technically live in Northern Kentucky. The Cincinnati airport is in the state of Kentucky.
Oh, interesting.
So
Yeah.
make sense of that if you can. Anyway, we knew we were going to be making the move. It's obviously a big deal when you're moving anytime, but especially when you're moving out of state. We have 2 kids that are in school, so that just complicates things as well. The last thing we wanted to have to do was make all the decisions with regards to, okay, what's going to give us the best chance to sell our home so that we have the best chance of purchasing the best home in Kentucky. So the first thing we did was we called the realtor who helped us buy our house in Delaware back in 2020. He came out, he did a walkthrough. He said, I think you ought to focus on this. Some of it was like, yeah, we totally agree. Some of it, we thought we were going to have to do way more than we did. And he's like, no, listen, buyers aren't going to worry about this. So he was just a huge resource, both with information, but also calming some of our nerves that we had. And so that's part of the reason that I wanted to speak with you today, because I know that you're meeting with clients probably every day of the week, answering phone calls, text messages, cries for help. So I want to walk you through the home, metaphorically speaking, and just get your take on some things. So let's jump in. We're going to start right in the heart of the home. What have you seen that has worked when it comes to getting the best return on investment when it comes to kitchen remodels?
Yeah. So it really, I should probably preface the entire conversation with kind of an opinion that I have about how much investment you should make into something that
Okay.
you're about to turn around and sell, right? Because for dollar, it's very rare that you're going to get that dollar back. Now, there's actual value, then there's perceived value, right? So the improvements that you make in certain rooms, like you were talking about the kitchen, although you may not get back exactly what you put into the kitchen, it's going to cause the buyer to connect with the home in a way that actually doesn't have tangible value, but it has an appeal, right? So, and that in and of itself is value, right? So we just can't quantify it. So anyway, with that being understood, so the simple things that I think that we kind of hear and where I feel as though you can kind of really do well are things like appliances, right? So if your appliances are old, they may be white in color or they might be black in color, which kind of resonates with like a dated kind of kitchen. There are great ways to upgrade those appliance packages at very, very affordable prices, especially if you time that right with a Black Friday sale or a Memorial sale. And listen, there's sales going on all year round.
Yeah.
So it's not like you actually have to wait around to do this remodel at one point of the year. Appliances is a really easy one because, again, the competition for appliances and the way that industry works, they're just bringing out new product after new product. And so, you might find yourself being able to upgrade your kitchen and give it a fresh look with the appliances a lot cheaper than you think,
Yeah.
right? So when somebody comes through the house and they're looking at the kitchen, they see, oh, brand new, let's say stainless steel appliances. Again, it just adds to kind of like, oh, they've upgraded here. They've actually invested in here, and I won't have to worry about my refrigerator breaking down or this anytime in the near future.
Yeah.
Plus, obviously, it gives a nice, clean, sleek look, whatever. So definitely appliances is one. I think another way to kind of like add accent to a kitchen space is a backsplash, right? And then again, very cost effective, especially if you're handy with YouTube and watching a video or something like that where you feel like you can do it yourself. But certainly, tiling is not my forte. That's something that I would hire it out to a contractor to do, just like Pro Exterior or something like that. But the key to backsplashes is just making sure that you're being wise about the selection that you pick, right?
Okay.
So you're about to move out of the house. You don't want to personalize that selection so that the next person comes through and says, I totally do not like what they put on the wall, because now that looks like an expense.
Yep.
Right? Because it's something that they have to live with that they don't like. And then over time, they're having to concede and say, oh, I'm going to change that. And so you're right off the bat, you're telling the buyer, spend some money to make this look a little bit better than it does right now. So, and again, complementary is what you want to go for there, is just kind of like, something that you see the design of the kitchen, picking out certain elements that might kind of, again, be something that you can enhance with a backsplash. The third thing that I think is a really good cost-effective way to kind of bring kind of refresh to a space is, instead of having your cabinets replaced, look to have them painted, right?
Okay.
So paint as opposed to replace the difference between a full kitchen replacement with shelves and cabinets, it could be like $10,000. Somebody coming in to paint your kitchen, again, could cost you a couple thousand, $2,000-3,000 in order for them to paint it instead. So again, small little ways that you're going to be able to freshen up a space without diving deep into your pocket, that will have an impression that you want the buyers to have in terms of value. Those kinds of things make sense. I think where people get jammed up is when they start spending buku bucks. I mean, they want the kitchen that they've always wanted in their mind, but then they're about to leave the home. So it just, again, for me, it doesn't make sense. You just want to be a little bit more pragmatic than that.
Yeah. So I hear you saying that a buyer, when they're walking through, they're making this mental punch list of, okay, well, if we buy this house, we're going to have to do this, we're going to have to do this. And the shorter you can keep that list,
sure,
the more likely you are to have the buyer interested. Or
regardless of what room that you're working through, you don't want the buyer to have the conversation that, oh, this is going to cost money, I have to change that, I have to upgrade this. That's the last conversation you really want the buyer to be having, because here's the thing. Buyers will assign a fictitious value to that improvement. So like, oh, I don't like the kitchen, I have to change the countertops. That's $10,000. Well, it may not be anywhere close to $10,000, but that's what you just done in the buyer's mind, right? Okay. You basically just place that $10,000 in their mind. So when they come to actually making an offer on your property, they're like, well, remember that kitchen needs countertops, and we evaluated it for $10,000. And so they're gonna start kind of like looking at ways to bring that list price down. And you can very easily kind of avoid that by making some smaller adjustments in each room that are really going to be able to avoid those conversations.
Would you say that the kitchen is typically the room in the house where people spend the most money when it comes to renovations?
Yeah, I want to say that's probably where they spend the most money. It is a complicated renovation, right? So you've got plumbing, you've got electric. I mean, you've certainly got things hanging on the wall,
Yeah.
right? Which I mean, I have a difficult time putting up a picture, right? And so just think about like what it might look like to have somebody come in and put like a whole wall of cabinets up, um, and then you've got appliances that are fitted into these cabinets at times, and they've got vent
Yeah.
hoods, and it's a complicated renovation, so it can cost more than you would potentially like, just because it's not easy and not everybody can do it.
Yep.
The general homeowner cannot do that, right? So I do see a lot of people spending a lot more money there just because of the nature of the project. At the same time, kitchens also deliver back a little bit better return on investment than perhaps another room in the house.
Okay.
So kitchens typically, and I forget where I read this, but typically a kitchen will return you back. If you spend $1 on the resale, you're probably going to get somewhere in that 70 to 80 cents back on
Mm.
the kitchen. So
Okay.
as far as that goes, that's a sensible way to do it, versus picking something that's a little bit of an outrageous project in a room of the house where people just don't find the same value.
Yeah. Sure.
And so there's definitely things things to think through there.
All right. There's some really good stuff in there. I would imagine the next house, or not the next house, the next room in the house where people tend to feel like they need to spend money would be the bathrooms. Is that a safe assessment?
Yeah, I think kitchens, bathrooms. I mean, that's just like real estate 101. If you do renovations, it's kitchens and bathrooms. That's where you're going to concentrate. Again, bathrooms are not an easy project either, right? I mean, you're talking about running water. You've got plumbing involved. You've got electric, and there's the things that have to really work in a bathroom is it's got to function right.
Mm.
So if you're making a remodel, you're doing a remodel or renovation in a bathroom, you want to make sure that you've also paying attention to how does it actually function as a room, right? So, for example, you're in a a 3 bed 2 bath home,
Okay.
and the primary bedroom has its own bathroom. Okay, great. The other bathroom serves 2 bedrooms, but it's only got one vanity, right? That's a functional kind of like
Incongruency
disadvantage,
or yeah.
right? So because you got 2 bedrooms functioning in this one bathroom, that one bathroom only has one vanity. So things like that in a bathroom can really change the way that people are calculating in their head
Mm.
about how is this house going to actually work for me, right? And how I've got kids or I've got people visiting or whatever the case may be.
Sure.
How are they going to be comfortable when they're in this space? So bathrooms, yes, is the next space in the house where I feel like people do a lot of upgrades. Bathtubs can be bathtubs or bath enclosures, if you will. Again, you can go $5 a square foot on a bathroom remodel to $100 a square foot on a bathroom remodel. Again, being very careful about some people see tile in a bathroom and say, how am I going to keep this clean? Look at all
Mm.
that grout, right? I'm going to get mildew in there and I'm not going to be able to get that mold out and all that stuff
Yep.
that they're concerns about. So sometimes it might be just as easy as getting a fiberglass tub and putting up some kind of like bigger tile so that you don't actually have so much grout going
Mm-hmm.
on, that can cover that space, or even just putting a fiberglass insert right into there and accenting that bathroom with new fixtures. Right. And so a lot of what we see is, some people dressing up their bathrooms with, they've got their old bathtub and fiberglass enclosure, but they've dressed it up with a new shower rod or a new shower curtain or shower
Yeah.
enclosure, maybe a sliding glass door, maybe it's frameless. But then inside the actual bath, you've got new fixtures in there.
Yeah. Yeah. So you're not gutting the whole thing.
Yeah.
You're not
And,
disturbing plumbing that's already working. And
right. And then,
yeah.
one of the things that you got to understand too is bathroom doors. So bathtubs and bath enclosures are typically put into a bathroom prior to doors being put on, and even sometimes walls being put up.
Right.
Right. So when you're actually taking that thing apart, somebody's cutting that thing in half in order to get it out, because
Yeah.
that's what it requires in order to fit through the finished home. So yeah, things like that can make a project complicated in a bathroom, but bathrooms are definitely a room in this a space in the house where spending money, again, sensibly, can be a very good way to increase appeal.
Cool. Are there any other rooms in the house? We're going to take a metaphorical walk outside here in just a minute, but are there any other rooms in the house that you usually suggest to homeowners, hey, you need to spend some time in this space, or is it just house dependent?
Yeah, a lot of that is going to depend on how the house works and where it might be lacking,
Okay.
right? So a lot of work from home scenarios at the moment with people kind of like saying, hey, like, so, if somebody has a flex room, for example, and it's perhaps unfinished, or perhaps it needs to kind of like, be upgraded a little bit to kind of invite someone to think, hey, I probably could create a nice space here for someone that's looking to do like a work from home or work remote scenario, whether it's a loft or something else. That might include unfinished space that requires HVAC,
Mm,
and split systems then come into play, right? And so you're providing that person, the next person along, to say, oh, it's already got that there. I basically just have to set up my desk and be good to go. Because it used to be that might have been just a nice thing to have, like a flex space. Now it's becoming more of it must have a flex space, because I do X, Y, and Z from home.
yeah. Yeah. I guess that's one of those things that even 10 years ago, that wouldn't have been as big a deal for people as it
Right,
is now.
right.
I can remember growing up, I grew up north of Baltimore. We had a basement in our house, and the washer and dryer were just down there along one of the block foundation walls. It was a bummer to have to do laundry as a teenager because you're going down into this unfinished basement. Have
Yeah.
you noticed that laundry spaces have become more of a thing that buyers are looking for?
I wouldn't say specifically buyers are looking for, but certainly whoever is in charge of that chore in the house is wanting a space that is going to allow them to kind of accomplish that task without being all jammed up, right?
Yeah.
The idea that the wash and dryer can just be put in a closet in the kitchen now, or a closet around the corner from the living room. Laundry rooms are now very much elaborate things. People love having like slop sinks
Yeah.
in a laundry space, right? Just so you can wash off things real quick. And I don't know about anybody else, but in my family, we run that washing machine.
All
It's
the time.
almost 24/7.
Yep.
So there's a lot of in and out. There's a lot of like, kind of movement in that room. And so, very quickly, if you do 2 or 3 loads and you don't plan on folding until, you're watching your Netflix,
Yeah.
your episode, it's piling up somewhere.
Yep.
And so, having a place that perhaps designated to dry, or having a designated place where you can actually fold. Things like that are becoming a little bit more of a kind of like a want, for especially for that person, like I said, who's in charge of doing all that.
Yep. Okay. All right. Well, let's take a walk outside. Obviously, when you pull up to a client's house, the outside is the very first thing you see. So, what's the first thing that your eyes drawn towards when you pull up?
Um, I got to be honest with you. The very first thing that get my eye might get is how clean is it.
Okay.
Like, is the outside of this home clean? Whether it needs to be power washed, or whether it needs to be broom swept, the porch or the path or something like that. Like, again, when I'm walking through, I'm looking at it from the point of view of a buyer.
Hmm.
Right? What's my impression of this home when I walk through? Does it have cobwebs hanging off of off of the fixtures or whatever? So that's the very first thing. So I want to make sure that is something I might bring up to the homeowner and say, hey, look, part of our kind of presentation of this property needs to be that we take care of, the exterior. A lot of people will talk to you a little bit about, curb appeal plants, bushes, things that might be kind of like that you might, put around the outside of the home in order to kind of like enhance its curb appeal. I don't have any real opinion about that. I mean, a lot of people as a homeowner, you end up finding ways to add your own touch and your own kind of like spin on what you want, what you don't want.
Yeah.
You just don't want it to look unkept. Right.
Okay.
So certainly kind of trimming up things. Maybe if there's a tree that's overgrown, maybe you cut that back. Maybe there's a bush that's dead. Maybe you take that out and you replace it. Things like that from the exterior in terms of the visual immediately are the two things that I'm probably mostly looking at. After that, it's, does the outside of the home reflect kind of any deferred maintenance?
Mm.
Right. So is the fixture falling apart? Do the light bulbs work? Is the soffit coming away from from the channel? Like those kinds of little things that might reflect to me that if this is what it looks like on the outside, man, what have they overlooked on the inside?
Yeah.
Right. So those are definitely things that I would kind of be looking at as well. Is there vinyl siding that has kind of like come apart? Is there like where there's a gap, or am I looking around and seeing asphalt shingle on the floor because it's blown off the roof and no one's really done anything about it? And so things like that will definitely help me, because I mean the outside of your home is the one that gets the most beating.
Yeah.
Right? All the weather elements are kind of attacking your home at any one time. So that's the most exposed part of your home. And so, that tells a lot about how the homeowner may have, taken care of it.
Yeah. I know as a homeowner myself, I tend to become blind to the areas that need to be addressed in my own home because I walk from my car to my front door every day and back. I'm not paying attention all the time to the things that somebody that's coming over for the first time might be looking at. Before we wrap things, I want to talk specifically to our audience who lives in our service area. So in the Sussex County area of Delaware, are there any trends in the market right now? I know it's fluctuating like crazy, especially these last few years. Is there anything that you've noticed in the last couple of years that you feel like our audience would benefit from knowing?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you're, one of the strongest trend that we're seeing in Sussex County at the moment is the migration of people moving from out of state into Delaware, right? Like that's the biggest thing that's happening. But if you dig a little bit deeper and you start to kind of like, unwrap that a little bit, you'll find that the average age of someone moving to Delaware or Sussex County specifically is 55 and older. Right? So when that person is now looking for a home, there are things in that are important to them at that age that may not be as important that 20 years ago.
Sure.
So and because of that, you're finding that builders are building homes a very specific way. They're adding features that are very, very kind of appropriate for that age group. Whether it's ADA modifications, like accessibility modifications, or whether it's the fact that you're going to create a one floor living, like a one floor living kind of floor plan. The other thing is whether the home has a primary bedroom on the first floor. And if your primary bedroom is on the first floor, is your laundry room on the first floor, or will they have to climb up a flight of stairs anyway in order to get to the laundry room and back down? So little things like that have already been part of the conversation that builders are having. And then as homeowners are making their renovations,
sure.
Can I add a bathroom on the first floor? Is there a way for me to add a laundry into the first floor? I had a home recently that I was helping a seller with, and they had a situation where a lot of the feedback we were getting from the home was, hey, listen, it's great that it has a primary on the first floor, but the laundry room is on the second floor. And so the idea that I don't have to climb stairs is kind of like deleted because I still have to go up there. So we started talking about how that feedback and what we could do about that feedback. And so what we ended up doing was in the garage, it just happened to be an oversized garage. And so, and the steps down to the garage was only like two or three steps. So we ran hookups for washer dryer in the garage in the one area where it was a little bit more expanded. We didn't actually move the laundry room and finish off a space, but we provided hookups there to kind of like lessen that objection, right? To kind of minimize the objection that somebody might have about laundry room being on the second floor. So things like that are big considerations, and I would say these are the strongest trends that we're seeing. Like first floor living or one floor living, at the very least, a primary on the first floor, and then certainly trying to make the home. I mean, home sizes here are not very big. I would say that the average size of a home in Sussex County is probably somewhere between 1,900 and 2,200 square feet,
Mhm.
right? Which typically in some areas that's a townhouse.
Right.
But here, I mean, you're going to get a whole 3-bedroom, 2-bath, house in that same footprint. So those kinds of things are definitely areas in where we see a lot of people asking that, does it have this, does it have that, and if it doesn't have it, I don't want to see it at all. That allow the house to work for people.
So I would imagine, and I shouldn't say I would imagine, I know because I've done this. A homeowner that's looking to sell will often think, I need to do a bunch of work to my house. They'll kind of do their own mental walkthrough.
Mm-hmm.
I need to do all this work before I call a realtor.
Sure.
What would you say to that person?
Pause. Just hit pause on that thought, right? I mean, it's kind of similar to what you were saying before about your realtor coming through and kind of helping you kind of like devise a plan. A lot of the perception of realtors is that they open doors. That's what we do. We just open doors and allow people to walk around houses. The ones that are kind of like see real estate as an occupation and they're professionals within that occupation, they have so much more knowledge to be able to share with you that you can benefit from, other than just kind of like, let me just go ahead and do this. I think I want to get this done before I bring in a realtor to check. Bring them in right away. Right away. I mean, if they've been around the business for long enough, and like I said, they've seen enough business and they've got enough experience, they'll be able to guide you in ways that you didn't actually think. And in your case, avoid you spending dollars on things that aren't necessarily going to return you anything back at all.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, that's really a really important piece of the puzzle, is having like, consider your real estate agent as your financial advisor, but they're doing it for your home. They're
Right.
not doing it for your investments.
Yeah.
Right. And so you can kind of have dialogue with them, and they're going to be able to kind of like say, hey, that's worth doing. You know what? That's not worth doing. And kind of helping you prep through those decisions. Because the last thing that you want to do is kind of work through by yourself and then realize, I probably shouldn't have done that.
Yeah. Audience, get your money's worth with your realtor.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
probably not going to say that, Nitan, because I mean, I know you love what you do, but these guys and gals aren't doing it for free. This is their livelihood. Get the most out
Yeah.
of them. You
Yeah.
can.
I mean, consults, I want to say, I mean, as much as, and this is me personally, as much as
Yeah.
I do sell a lot of homes every year, I want to say I do just as much consultation as I do selling. Nitan, will you come over? I'm thinking about getting a remodel on my home. Or Nitan, in this particular market, how much is my house actually worth today?
Mm.
Right? Because I'm
Yeah.
looking to do this, or I'm looking to do that. And then inevitably it turns into, well, if I do list, what are the things that I should be looking to do?
Yeah.
Right? So things like that are and obviously we're not charging for consultations. It's just the goodwill that's being built between myself and my client.
Yeah.
That once they do decide, hey, I want to list, that you've invested enough with them and you've partnered with them on enough of that kind of of the process, that they're like, hey, I mean, obviously it just makes sense for you to
Yep.
pick it up from here.
Yeah, there's trust and relationship built that otherwise you don't want to have somebody selling your home that you've never spoken with before. Same
Yeah.
thing with us. We will do roof inspections. We come out. We don't expect you to buy from us, but the hope is that a relationship's built and
Right.
you'll call us down the line if
Yeah.
something comes up.
Yeah, your realtor's usually a very good gateway.
Yeah.
Whether you need pro exteriors to come out and do something, or whether you need an electrician to come out and do something, whether you need someone. Usually, your real estate agent has their hand and contacts with those people just to be able to plug them right in. I wouldn't say I probably answer 2 or 3 of those kinds of requests a day. Nitan, do you have a plumber for me? Nitan, do you have somebody who want to do my tile or whatever? And then I can make those recommendations.
Yeah, and as we've explored on this show in past episodes, it's daunting. You Google plumber in my area, you're going to come up with a huge list.
Yeah.
And it's difficult to vet those people. Well, you can call Nitan and he can say, hey, I've used this person time and time again. They're going to show up when they say they're going to show up. And that's worth its weight in gold, as people say.
Yeah. And again, the idea that you might be able to kind of like fast forward through that process of like calling an Angie's List or whatever, and just having them not show up or come in and start a job and then leave halfway. I mean,
yeah,
your realtors tend to not be working with those types of contractors because we're always on a timeline.
Mm-hmm.
You've got a house that got sold and then an inspection happened and then there's 10 things that need to be repaired. You don't have the time to kind of like hire someone that's going to disappear on you for 2-3 days.
Yeah.
And then as that contractor starts to kind of get more comfortable with the work that you're giving them, when you need them and you refer them to someone, they're happy to take the call.
Nitan, I can't thank you enough. I have learned things today that I didn't know. I've been reminded of things that I had forgotten about. So I appreciate your time so much.
Yeah, no worries at all.
Before I let you go, I'm wondering where people can find you if they are in our service area.
Sure. So if someone's looking for real estate services, or even again, going back to just having someone to just come and consult with them about things that they might be looking to do, you can reach me obviously on the internet. You just type in my name, Nitan Soni. I'll pop right up. That has my email, my phone number. If you want to see me in person, want to stop by the office, we are actually just two kind of buildings up from the Midway movie theater. If the Midway movie theater is on your right, then you have like a Wells Fargo, and then couple buildings up from there is our Northrop office in Lewes. So I'm pretty easy to find. It's remarkable how many times I'll get stopped randomly at like a grocery store or at a one of the outlet stores, and people are like, "Oh, Nitan, blah blah blah." We're around a lot. If somebody it wouldn't take too much to find where we are and get in touch with us.
Cool. If you don't want to accost him in the Weiss market, I will have his info in the show notes in the video description of this, so you can contact him that way too. Well, thanks again. Appreciate your time. Appreciate your expertise.
No
thanks for being the pro. Thanks for allowing me to be the bumbling goofball.
You got it. No worries, Cole. I really appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
Nitan, thank you again for joining us today. You can get all of Nitan's contact information by looking in the show notes or the video description. Well, that is all we have for you today on the You Ask the Pros Answer podcast. Would you help us get the word out about the show? We benefit anytime that you share a kind word or rate us and review on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify. If you would like and subscribe, if you are watching or listening on YouTube or YouTube Music, that would be awesome. Also, we want to hear from you. This show does not exist without your questions. What questions do you have about your house? It could be remodeling. It could be about selling. It could be about buying. Ask us a question. We would love to feature it on an upcoming episode. You can email us at info@askproexteriors.com, and in the subject line, simply put, you ask. If you are facing an upcoming home project, we hope this episode has empowered you to tackle it with confidence. Remember, knowledge is power, and a little bit of research can go a long way. Until next time, happy homeowning. The You Ask the Pros Answer podcast is produced in-house by the Pro Exteriors team. Pro Exteriors is the exterior contracting division of Empire Construction Group, LLC. This podcast is intended for informational purposes only. It should not be considered legal advice. For more answers to your questions, please subscribe to this channel and podcast so you'll never miss an episode. Do you have an upcoming home remodeling project? Find more answers to your questions at askproexteriors.com.